It's been a long, long day in the canyons of the city. I need some time to think, because it all stays with me. It's been a long, long time since anything made sense. Even in this love, you start to wonder when the sun goes down, it's burning again, like I'm burning the candle at both ends. The moon comes up, it's got a dark side too, like I'm learning about me and you. From my window I can see Orion chasing the scorpion from the sky. Andromeda's got her problems too. All this time down in the blues. Andromeda, what you gonna do? It's been a long, long summer in the land of the free. Love in wartime is reality. It's been a long, long ride, you know how it goes. Under constellations, going down the road. The sun goes down, it's burning again, like I'm burning the candle at both ends. The moon comes up, it's got a dark side too, like I'm learning about me and you. From my window I can see Orion chasing the scorpion from the sky. Andromeda's got her problems too. All this time down in the blues. Andromeda, 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 what you gonna do?
Welcome to Podula Rasa. I'm David Blank.
And I'm Jim Esch.
This is a podcast about finding something in nothing. Show 11. 73 years ago today, on Saturday, September 6, 1947, one day before the third quarter of a waning moon, Thomas Beverly Williams Jr. was born. As he would describe it himself, he was a Virgo born on the day of fate. A conversation about one's birthday was often the focal point of a first meeting. To celebrate his birthday, we've created a montage of moments that we have had with some of you, conversations of consequence from thoughts, memories, and collaborations about Tom. Thank you to Lisa D'Annunzio Jones, Danielle Buchanan, Jeffery Alulis, Phillip Charron, Jon-Michael Frank, Jim Morris, John Grecia, Joseph and Jimmy Develin for sharing your time with us. Special thanks to John Grecia for graciously encouraging us to use the music he composed with Tom in this podcast. Much like Tom's legacy, this is by no means complete. We hope that you enjoy these moments and that those of you who knew Tom can identify with them, and that those of you who didn't know him will understand a little bit more about what made this man special.
This very prominent person coming toward me. And I was like, it almost like the situation demanded my attention. It was the feeling that I got because like Tom Williams is who I saw. And I just had this like feeling like I need to know this person, whoever this is. They look like they know what's going on here and I need to connect with them. And so said, hi, my name is Lisa D'Annunzio. I'm going to be teaching English here in room, I guess it was 110 or 112. It was, when's your birthday? He didn't tell me his name. He's, when's your birthday? I said, October 11th. He goes, so you're a Libra. Like right away, he knew the number and the month and what astrological sign I was. I said, yes, I'm a Libra. He goes, I bet you like things just so, like almost like a tea party, like don't chip a plate or the day is gonna like be ruined. I went, yeah, I'm very detail oriented. So I met Tom, that's Tom Williams. And from then on, I mean, he knew my name, but he always called me Libra in conversation, in front of other people. Like, and that was just so cool.
Did he have or did he ever eventually give you a nickname?
That was it. It was Libra.
Libra, okay.
But like I was thinking about this, I was telling my husband, like I'm gonna talk to the podcast guys, and I said, I didn't remember Tom calling other people by their astrological sign. Maybe he did, but I didn't notice it. And I was just like, maybe I was the quintessential like sign. And maybe that's why I was called that versus, other thing. He did call me Rita, meter maid, once in a while. And I think that was because at one point I traveled. I didn't have an actual classroom for a year or two, and I would push a cart around. So you're right, I did have a nickname in addition to Libra.
He gave me an emergency telephone number to call. It was my own. That's so badass, right? That's like such an amazing haiku-esque kind of vibe. Well, that literally said to patients before. On the phone, I was checking in with him. I think I was obviously worried, and he, I think sort of true to form, true to his style, his way of reassuring me, I guess, was sort of to say, the ice cream's still sweet. What an amazing take on the experience of being in a hospital.
In a way, he felt like a parent to me, like a friendship, but like just this nurturing, caring, loving person, and I stayed in touch, as if he were a parent almost. If you started a little fire of creativity, he threw gas on it, right? It was like, go. It helped me sort of break down walls that I was holding on my own, right? Which was one of the things that was the most silly, stupid fun, but amazing things that we would do is sit and color, right? In these, like in a coloring book. And I remember the first couple times we sat in the back room and we were just, you know, shooting the breeze and coloring and laughing and people walking through and every other thing. And I sat and colored like I learned to color, where you stay in the lines, you know? And he looked at me, he's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm coloring." And he said, "Why don't you like let go a little bit?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, "Tear the page, glue it back together, you know, like cut out a page from a magazine, slap it on there." Like, and we just started like coloring without staying in the lines. It was an exercise in creativity that really changed how I approached a lot of things. It's like, hey, you don't have to color between these lines because they're on the paper, right? And we did that for hours. It was amazing, honestly. It's a great memory.
And there was this other quote that, you know, kind of, you know, literally changed my life is, you know, it was not something he said to me, it was something he said to my parents. And it's hard to tell the story without sounding self-aggrandizing, so I apologize at the top, but I think it's, for what you're trying to do, I think it's important to tell the story in the way that a person can change your life with just a few words. But basically, you know, if you grow up in suburban Philadelphia, you know, the reason your parents moved there is because it's a very practical place to live. You know, it's safe, it's quiet, homes are affordable, you can send your kids to a decent school. You didn't move there because you wanted to start an experimental nude dance troupe or something. Like, right. You moved there for very practical reasons.
American dream.
Right. Yeah. And nothing wrong with that. Not putting that down. I'm just saying that that's the culture that you're in, is a practical one. Yeah. And so a lot of parents and teachers pay lip service to the idea of, you know, follow your dreams and you can do anything. And you know, it's a great big world out there.
But make sure you live in Broomall.
Well, it's just then when you say, you know what I'd love to do, become a filmmaker. And then they go, well, it's like, well, follow your dreams, but maybe do you have a backup plan though? Like, that's kind of the follow-up, the subtitle to that. So, and my parents were no different, and I don't want to insult my parents because they were very supportive. If when I took music lessons, they made sure I could take music lessons. When, if I was in the school play, like, they were at the performance, great job, like, they were very super supportive. And if I had these horrible, noisy punk rock bands that just made horrible cacophonous noise, and they, hey, can we practice at the house? Okay. And they just sat upstairs, plugged their ears, and dealt with it. Like, that's, so again, I wasn't raised by the dad from Footloose telling me that, art is terrible or something. But at the same time, when it comes down to, well, I think I really would like to pursue this, creative career path of writing, filmmaking, whatever, it just caused a lot of friction. It just, it caused a lot of, issues. Because I think parents think to themselves, when you live in suburban Philadelphia, I think you associate a career in the arts with poverty and struggle, and nobody wants that for their kid. You want your kid to be comfortable and okay. So anyway, so that's just sort of the attitude going into it. And there was a parent-teacher night. My parents go to meet this Tom Williams that they've heard so much about. Obviously, they could tell that he was this big influence, and I had told them stories and whatnot. And I guess they go in, and the teachers give a little presentation, and afterwards they go up and introduce themselves and get to meet him personally. Oh, hi, we're Jeff's parents. Now, they've been to all these parent-teacher nights, and it's got a predictable flow where oh, Jeff's a pleasure to have in class. Oh, he's a funny guy. Oh, he's delightful, creative, whatever. And so they're expecting that. Mm-hmm. And Tom Williams looks at them eye to eye, like dead in the eye, the way he does. And with that deep, very serious baritone, he looks my mom in the eye and he goes, your son is dripping with talent. And like, she was like knocked back. Like she still tells the story to this day about like how she's like, it just like, I couldn't believe it. Like, and it's the evocative language that he used. Like a lot of people had said, you know, oh, he's a very talented kid. It's like, your son is like the word choice, dripping with talents. This like, I don't know, it just brings something out of you. And then, and also obviously the delivery, like that Tom Williams delivery where he could just look at you, like he was very much saying with his whole mannerism, everything, like, take this seriously. You have to, this is an important message that I'm delivering.
Yeah. And
the tone of voice, obviously, just this low, like, whoa, what? It's like he had that hypnotic way about him. And it blew their minds. And like, and after that, I'm not saying that right after that, they became these hippies who were like, yes, go be free, find art, find your path. But the foot came off the brake a little bit. Like they unclenched a little bit because obviously they're my parents, they cared about me. They were very supportive, loved me. So they always, you know, thought of me as a talented kid or whatever, but it was like that
validation now.
Yeah, exactly. That validation meant everything. And they were like, oh, maybe we should kind of like see how this goes. And so basically, you know, I ended up in college. I was an English major. And I was a double major in sociology. So I was graduating college 4 years later, and I was trying to choose my path in life. And I was either going to go to law school and be an environmental lawyer and kind of like fight the good fight, or I was going to go to film school and I was going to move to California and try to make it as a writer and a filmmaker. And it's a tough decision. And of course, I wanted to go to Copenhagen, take the more risky path. Right. And that caused, again, a lot of friction. And there was a lot of back and forth with my parents about it. And really, honestly, my mom said one of the big decision points for her, she's like, I just think back to that time when I met Tom Williams and he said, you know, your son is dripping with talent. She's like, I have to go with him. He had all that faith in you. I can't, you know, ignore that. I guess, okay, let's see where you go, you know? And I think, and then over the course of the following years, you know, it's a creative career is full of struggle and uncertain times. It's a roller coaster. And I think that always gave her a certain amount of comfort to, you know, revisit like that moment. Like, well, Tom Williams said he'd be okay. Like Tom Williams gave it this. So I always it's crazy to point to that moment as an example of like one sentence from this guy, like just a few words, one sentence uttered by the right person at the right time can just completely change the trajectory of a person's life. I'll owe Tom forever for that.
What was endearing about him, like you could tell that he cared about how people felt, and he was a really good, like he was very empathetic. Like there's some people that are empaths who like feel the energy of others. I am one of those people, and I, in retrospect, I can think that Tom was too. And the feeling that I got from him was like, it's like a magnetic feeling. Like when you're around someone like Tom, who, and it's very rare that you find these people in life that when you're with them, your blood pressure goes down, you think more clearly, you feel more valued in the presence of that person than perhaps another group. And I would usually see Tom in big groups for meetings and things. And like, if he was there and even not saying much, his presence would make the whole essence of the get together better. It would be calmer. I feel like people were just more at ease to be themselves around him. And we crave that in life. It's very rare that we find someone who is consistent in doing that. And he was fabulous at that. Wisdom seeker wise, mentor, musician, and friend. Till the flip side, man.
You play chess, and there was a chess club, and he was wondering if I wanted to join the chess club, and I was like, I don't think I'm good enough to play a chess club. He's like, well, let me train you a little bit. Mm-hmm. And the way he trained me was, the first time we played, he gave me every piece on his side except the king, the queen, and the rooks, and all the pawns. And he said, when you can beat me, then we'll start adding pieces to the board. And over a period of a year, it took me a while to get to the point where I could beat him.
Yeah.
and then when I could beat him, he's like, all right, now we're going to add the knights. And then now we're going to add the bishops, or whatever he would add to the board.
That's great.
So it was kind of his way of like tying his own hand behind his back and making it a fair fight until it wasn't a fair fight anymore, and then he was taking away some of his handicap and moving on that way. And
well, he must have learned that later than when I was there, because he clobbered me just about every game we ever played, and usually pretty quickly too.
Yeah, it was crazy. I remember once because I remember going home and complaining to my dad prior to him doing that, but my dad used to have this like sort of 9-move, checkmate that he would pull on me and my brother when he was teaching us how to play. And
yeah.
And so I finally had my dad teach me that gambit that he had. And I went in, and I think I was 3 moves in, and Tom was like, you can't fool me with this. I think how seriously he took his job. He was clearly a man of many talents and a lot of charisma, and probably could have done anything. And but there clearly was something that some mission that he had in life to sort of help younger people launch into their adult lives in a good way.
I spoke to him, and it was a few days, I think, before he died. Maybe it was a week time. I don't remember, but I called. I don't remember. I called. I got in touch with him, and he said something to me. Because I asked him, I was like, I'm sorry if this is like inappropriate, and he said something to me that really made me feel good about, like, I was one of the few people he wanted to talk to, and that just my heart, it just was a real killer even now. And like I emailed to you, one of the last things I remember him saying is that I'm still learning so much. Days away from his death, is still learning so much. That's it. That's Tom, and that's his humility, and that's where that symbiotic relationship he has, his relationship with people. And I don't think I do this, but that's what I think you understand when you're a teenager talking to him, is he's learning from you and you're learning from him, and that's parity. There's an equal relationship there. And in high school, I was editing his haikus with him. That's insane. I don't think I would do that with a high schooler. I think he knows, and I think I knew that, like I said, I think we had a connection and understood, and those connections with people are just so important.
My first class with Mr. Williams was American literature, and I have 2 really vivid memories from that class. Both are when he actually recited literature to us. And like no other teacher had ever done anything like that before. And really, it kept inspiring me over the years to want to memorize famous speeches or stories. And so far, I've only completely memorized a little parable by Kafka. I can still remember all of that. And I've tried to work on some other speeches as well. And one of them was the Patrick Henry speech, the "Give Me Liberty" or "Give Me Death" speech. It was in the American literature textbook. But that's the one that Mr. Williams gave the first time, and we had no idea what to expect. Everybody in the class didn't know what he was going to do. He just kind of opened the book and started reading it while sitting at his desk. It's we're sitting at his desk. It was kind of like it was like, remember those classrooms that had like the stadium seating? There were like 3 of them. Like, anyway, he was sitting with us, so it was weird. He always sat off to the side. He never sat in the middle like the lecturer would sit. And even that kind of meant something to us. But anyway, he started reading it in the normal voice, and as it's a great speech because it just keeps escalating and getting more animated as it goes on. So he acted that out, and eventually, like towards the end of it, he's like standing up and like yelling out the words, like stamping his feet and thrusting his fist in the air, and he's hollering like, "Give me liberty or give me death." And it was, it just like, it blew my mind. I assume it blew everybody else's mind. And I don't remember if we cheered or what, but I was like, it's just completely unforgettable. Over the last 40 years, I've tried to keep memorizing that speech. I've only gotten so far, but it's just so inspiring. Like just hearing that in my head, like it was Mr. Williams, like just that did that. That was just so unforgettable.
Tom had an assistant come in and sit in on his classes that helped him out with grammar on his papers that he would his assignments that he gave out. I remember one time Tom would always encourage me, Jimmy, just write, just put it down. You're smart. Put down your story, get it on paper. Just get it out, let it flow out of you. And so I really thought about this subject, and I couldn't even tell you what the subject was at this point. It's so long ago, but I wrote this paper, and I really thought it was good. And I turned it in, and a few days later, we get our papers back, and I see on the top of the paper, A over 13. And I'm like, Tom, what is A over 13? What is this? Yeah, well, I gave you an A because it was great, but your grammar really sucks. And he gave me, at that point, he's like, Jimmy, I know I told you to write, but you have to at least, just put the minimum in, put the periods in and the commas and, the things that make an actual sentence, that might help. And so, that lesson kind of led me through my life, and I really worked at that phase of my writing, and it actually became a strength. I do a lot of proofreading for other people, and people always ask me, "Hey, Jimmy, can you look at this and tell me if this sounds okay or looks okay?" And it's just a funny way that it's his teaching style. It's what he does. It's how he teaches, how he interjects and lets you know, hey, it's never stern. It's always a learning thing. And hey, if you take this and you do this, you're going to be more successful, and you're going to, this is going to help you down the line. And that's one example that I can remember that it certainly did. And people that take heed to that or took heed to that and listened to the things that he said and were usually turned out to be successful in those certain things.
You know, the last email I ever got from him, it said "word," period, from a brother.
He was always so minimal in his words, in his lyrics, everything, you know, but it always said so much and it made you think volumes, you know, he knew that.
Yes.
It's really crazy.
So I know you have a deep connection with Tom, but I got to ask you, like, when did you meet? Tell me about, what are you comfortable sharing?
Oh my God, well, everything. You know, so much like your story, you kind of stumbled into his creative writing class. It was my junior year at Marple Newtown. And I think I started the semester in Spanish 3, and I'm like, oh God, get me out of this. I need to find something else. So I dropped that hard and fast, and I'm like, creative writing with, you know, Thomas Williams. That sounds closer to who I am and who I want to be. So I jumped into his class, and I was totally immersed in the person. I mean, like you mentioned initially, he just kind of sweeps over you. His initial presentation is so thought-provoking. And then he has this way of just getting to know, you know, so many of his students. He can see into their strengths and amplify them. He always referred to the muse being in the room, like it was a person, like a spirit, like an energy. And, you know, I took him very seriously when he said that, you know, and we were writing and we crossed over something that was new for us or felt profound in our line of writing. We felt like we, you know, made it to another level or something. He was very concerned and aware that the muse was in the room, and I always loved that. And you know, after he passed away, he became the muse to me, which is very incredible in its own way. I feel like it's just still ever present 10 years after the fact. So it's just you know, it's a line of energy, you know, creative energy that I'm sure he tapped into, that he gave to so many of his students. You know, they tapped into it. And I was lucky enough to also, you know, be able to tap into it and continue to tap into it. And if I was getting too caught up in life or something and not showing up, I would get an email, you know, from, you know, TWill96@AOL.com saying, hey, are you out there? You know, the muse is here and I look forward to seeing you. I got some things that need writing. And I'd go over there and, you know, I'd always leave with 2 or 3 new songs, which was such an amazing thing to get in your car after that happening. Oh, I love Jimmy. Yeah, he's a dear friend as well.
Yeah. It seemed like it was the same thing with him.
Yeah, they were just like soul musical brothers. You know, if he needed a hot guitar solo over a tune, he called Jimmy over and he'd lay it down. They have it's amazing. He has so many different chapters of his poetry, number one, in his music life. He has so many different chapters with different people. It's amazing. I mean, I have 100 songs with him. He has a whole series of recordings with Jimmy. And I know a number of other people, you know, throughout the years. Plus his own disc that he released. I feel like some great lasso has to be thrown out to capture all of these things, you know, from everybody's collections. You're providing an amazing spark at a very important, you know, anniversary year, you know, for him and for Meg, and it's just opening up a lot of people's, you know, imaginations and their memories. There's a song, well, it's the last song we wrote together. I might have mentioned this to you in our email. A few days before he passed away, he sent me one final lyric called Quiet Conversations of Consequence. And it was literally him writing about his firsthand experience, talking to Meg, and knowing that the writing was on the wall, you know, in his room at that time. And I quickly wrote it and sent it back to him. But he has this nugget in Rules to Live By where he's talking about, you know, how people leave all the time. And that just, I actually made a little experiment and put that right at the front of Quiet Conversations. I'll send this to you. And it works so beautifully. It's almost like him telling you that it's okay, that he passed away. You know, which, yeah, it gets me. He like gave you a toolbox to handle the hard things.
Learn to say goodbye gracefully. What to say about that? People live your life all the time. There are exits all the time. You have to be graceful all the time because it's the way it is.
Quiet conversations of consequence. We're having one right the stars divide the sky, how the waves divide the bow. I've been to China before I woke up. Every night alone enough. What's that you say? I think I slept right through the words of love. 1,000 rooms all in this house, doors open every day. In quiet conversations, that's all there is to say. The world's crazy. So are you. It's the consequence of what you do. Quiet conversations of consequence. Just once before you go. Something to carry into the dark. Something just for me. 1,000 rooms are in this house, doors open every day. In quiet conversations, that's all